And welcome everyone to episode 3 of the Moon Knight Spoilercast. As always, I am Mitch. You can follow me on Twitter at 692tweets, and of course, I'm joined by Sean.
Hey, you can join me at Marvel the Martian _12 and Instagram. That's it.
So, episode 3. Episode 3. Where to begin? Where to begin with 3? Ironically, they introduced the third Oscar Isaac in the third episode.
Yeah, very what is it?
Very subtle.
Subtle, yeah, that's the word.
I think a lot of people actually missed it. I don't think people really caught on to what was exactly going on there.
It's because it was very subtle. It wasn't like in your face, hammering you over the head. Like his personality changed. If you watch it and you're paying attention, I think you'd get it. But I think some people, might be
because what I thought, what I cottoned on to, but the thing is, they did it again afterwards, and like it made me question it. It's the flashing. They only really tend to do the flashing when you don't know who the personality is.
Yeah.
But then they did it with the Mr. Knight Moon Knight swap in the fight in this one.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that what they were doing? Because that's obviously Stephen and Mark in the fight. It's not Jake. So that just threw that out the window. At first I was like, haha, I clocked it. If it flashes, it's the personality you don't know. But I'm probably totally wrong in that. They do it like every single time. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the change was subtle, and that's why a lot of people didn't catch it. It'll be, I guarantee the next episode will explore a little bit more. But I think I've talked to a lot of people outside, and this is probably one of the more underwhelming. They said it was kind of underwhelming, the episode. I personally enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I think it definitely wasn't on par with the first two. Not like, oh, this episode was bad. I don't know. It didn't.
I felt like
it was missing something. I think
they were driving at 60 and they clocked it down to like 30. When they were driving, like as a driving analogy, like you're driving fast 1 minute and then you just kind of like downshift a little bit.
I think it's because you didn't have the mystery of like who Mark is and what actually is going on, and you have Stephen and Mark semi working together. It could be maybe Mark's not as endearing as Stephen is.
Mark's kind of a dick.
It's just that Mark is very much a dick. To be fair, that's Mark Spector. But like maybe it's like that sort of a thing. I wasn't. Something just felt different about it. The whole episode as a whole. I don't know. Maybe it's because it was more typical Marvel stuff as opposed to the first two, where the first two isn't really anything I've done before. And I was like,
Yeah.
Not that I didn't enjoy it. Again, I did enjoy this episode. I just wasn't. I preferred the first two if I had to rank all three. But.
Yeah, I mean, it did kind of go down, and like because it was very kinetic the first two episodes, very like very actiony.
See, I wouldn't say the first two are actually in the slightest. This one's the more action-orientated one, easily.
Yeah, I guess that whole scene took up a while. I just think it was kind of like there were parts that kind of felt like there was a missing part in the scene. Maybe I don't know. I know there was a lot but the bittersweet thing for me was the Gaspard that played Midnight.
Yeah. I can't remember his name. I can't remember the character's name. I know it's Midnight Man. It was supposed to be Midnight Man. A lot of people who saw the screen was like, or who read the leaks or whatever, are like, oh yeah, he kills him with a moon dart. It's like, he doesn't die. Like, has anyone ever watched a show before where someone dies? If someone dies, you see the body. This guy literally rides off into a cloud of fog.
Yeah.
This guy's like, that's not a death in any reality on any. Like,
I mean,
obviously not here because horrendous circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, there's that old rule of thumb with movies, like if the body's not shown, then he's not dead, or that person's not dead. So
no, especially when you compare it to every other guy that got a dart or the moonerang, whatever you want to call it, in a chest or any other body part in that fight. It's like, yeah, they're all clearly dead.
Yeah,
that guy, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, he like if he was part of the dead parts, he would be on the ground after. I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't know why people said that. But
no, I just thought it took me out. I was like, oh, he doesn't die. He actually was you don't even see him fall off the horse. He just rides off into that.
Rides off, yeah.
It's like, okay, like he's clearly coming back. But I enjoyed all that. I enjoyed the fight. I enjoyed the whole puzzle piecing and actually Stephen getting to do Egyptian stuff and how excited he was about everything. Like, oh, it's the Pyramid of Giza. It's just like, oh yeah. I was like, you go, Stephen. You live the dream. Oh.
Did you enjoy the scene with all the avatars?
I did. I enjoyed it. Yeah, because Bast is an Egyptian god, isn't she? Yes, or he? I can't remember what Bast is. No, I'm not up to date.
Andromeda.
Yeah. In fairness, he's still an African god because yes, Egypt is African. I've seen people say like there's an Arisham thing in there, and I haven't clocked it, and I haven't seen any like hard concrete proof of anything. And I was like, I'd be surprised if he was in there in any shape or form.
Yeah. But that was a pretty because what I loved about this show is like it hints at the bigger universe, but it doesn't like hammer you over the head with it. Like the Wakanda thing, like But yeah, I love that scene with all the avatars judging.
A poor little country. Though I have to say, the other gods are dumb.
They're being played for sure.
Dumb as hell. Like, obviously, Harrow and Amit are at least talking to Osiris, right? The bald guy. Osiris is obviously on their side. The other ones, like, guys, he's literally just distracted everyone by changing the subject and like, what about this guy? Like, why aren't you asking him any questions?
It's sleight of hand.
It's like, Khonshu, why exactly, or why does Khonshu think you're doing this? Like, oh, I'm here visiting. Like, no. No. Why are you in this specific spot is what I want to know. Like, the gods are dumb. I thought they were dumb.
Yeah, they're pretty...
to be fair,
easily
gods
manipulated.
Arrogant. No.
Yep.
I like that. Yeah, definitely. But I like the whole concept of just the portal opens anywhere and they just show up.
Yeah.
Also, I want to know how Khonshu works now, because I would like what Khonshu does in this might be one of the best things Marvel's ever done. I adored what Khonshu was doing. The whole, I'm just gonna call an eclipse. I'm just gonna move the moon. Is he actually moving the moon? I want to know how. Did some poor place just get drenched in the tidal wave or something? How does that happen?
And, in the background, there's the news. There's like New York got flooded or something.
Yeah, and like rewinding the sky, like is the universe just really dizzy now at this point because they were moving quick? That was fast. That's a few thousand
motion sickness for sure.
So is it just an illusion? Is it actually happening? Like what? What? It doesn't need to be explained. In fairness, I'm not like I don't necessarily really care, but it's just one of those questions. Like, hang on, is that a thing?
How does this work? How's this work in this universe?
So I'd like to know. I don't care enough to push to know one of those because it looked amazing. Yeah. It looked the stars looked fantastic. I adored that scene completely.
That whole like more in the sky thing.
Was it localized to Egypt, or was it the entire planet?
I would assume that it would be the entire planet, though. Like, it would be weird if it was localized.
Because it was really well done. You see the drift of the actual stars. It's like they move, but obviously they're not moving a lot in relation to us. But to them, it's miles. But you had that like weird little figure of 8. It's like that's really cool. I thought that.
Yeah. The next episodes are pretty explains a lot from the first yeah. I don't know why I mentioned it yet, but how did you like man, Ethan Hawke is killing it in this show though. Like
he is. Though I want to know why the gods didn't hear the glass in his shoes that he's clearly walking on.
I mean, the Foley guy definitely did.
Because that's a case of like, are you walking on glass?
This guy's really into this. Yeah.
Unless they're like really embedded into his feet and you can't hear him crack it anymore.
Like he taped it to his feet or something. But yeah, he still makes me kind of like, he really creeps me out every time he talks. Like
he is a creepy guy. Yeah, he's very creepy.
Talks and he still has that like the Ethan Hawke like voice, but it feels like it's like he's whispering sometimes, and
it's too like, calm. He's so calm. He's unsettling. But he's not put a foot wrong. To be fair, Oscar Isaac hasn't put a foot wrong either. I don't think anyone has in this show. I think it's all fantastic. But he's definitely the co-lead in this show. Now, so, even what's her name? Is it not Lyra? Is it Lyra or Layla?
Lila. Yeah.
I can't know if it's Nara or no. But anyway, even her, I think she's great.
Yeah, there's not one like weak link in the cast. Except for the people. I think the back like the people on the first 2 episodes like that were in the museum. Like they felt kind of.
I appreciate that the people in the museum were very much Londoners.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's Simon Pegg looking like, yes, that's how you get treated.
So we got like what 2 more episodes? Is it 3 more?
You have 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yep.
I don't really want to talk about the next one because I think I know where it's going. I'm convinced, and after this one, I'm convinced, absolutely convinced about how Jake Lockley's going to turn out. I know, yes, Jake Lockley's more like the eyes and ears on the ground and the brawler, and that can equate to being the stabby. But the whole stabby bit is like, yeah, he's going to be the psycho. He's going
to be unhinged.
I can feel it. Yeah. And
he's gonna, because we all thought that Mark was going to be the one that was kind of like unhinged and crazy.
Well, they were unhinged to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, you had 3 different personalities, going in one head. So I think that being unhinged is not a stretch. But like the Jake Lockley persona is going to be interesting because it's going to be a little bit of a departure from the comics, and I'm sure people are going to.
I mean, in fairness, I think
even the Stephen Grant one.
I was going to say Mark's the only one that's like a 1-for-1 in the comics. Yeah. That's Stephen Grant was the billionaire that funded everything in the comics. He ain't that in this.
Yeah.
And, and in fairness, the comics, Moon Knight was his own personality. Mr. Knight was his own personality. Stephen Grant, Mark Spector, and Jake Lockley were just 3 separate people.
Yeah, they weren't actually.
Yeah, it was. I know there's obviously some people are like, oh, it's not Moon Knight. Take out X, Y, and Z, and it's not Moon Knight. It's like, yeah, but you're taking if you take stuff out of it, of course it's not going to be that thing, is it? That's literally everything. Take the Smurfs out the Smurfs movie. Guess what? It's not a Smurfs movie.
It's a Carker Bell movie.
This is like if you and people were complaining about CGI. It's like all you've got to do is complain about CGI. You're having to find something.
I I've kind of numbed myself to fans complaining. You kind of it's kind of become ambient noise at this point, because it's like
there's always something, and it's always the dumb stuff. Wow.
Yeah, and it's always, I feel like, in every person I've talked to about, there's one specific person I talk to all the time, but I don't know why I do it. I think it's like morbid curiosity why I talk to him.
We all have that one friend, and if you don't, it's you.
But he's always complaining about how the MCU's not doing the characters correctly from the comics. But it's like,
yeah,
you can't if you did if you did the 1-for-1, it's boring. You've read every story. If they did a 1-for-1 version of that character, what's the point of watching the movie? And what's the point of people coming on to do creative stuff with it? You got to change things. Like, logistically, sometimes you have to change things to bring this character to life. Even like sometimes you don't. I would say keep that in mind with Miss Marvel, because things just have to be changed.
Not everything has to.
I'm
dying on that hill from Miss Marvel.
And look, that's understandable. I will always stand by what the creators do. Like, it may not be right, it may not be wrong, but it's their vision, and they are doing it. And Kevin Feige, and all his wisdom and greatness, is like, if it didn't make sense to him, it probably wouldn't get past the point of concept. So I always try to keep in mind, and with everything, that you, as a person that treats stuff like this, you have to imprint yourself or just your ideas onto things. And not to get off on a tangent, but like the Miss Marvel thing, a lot of the creators of the comic are involved with that show. So it's like, and it's not like people are forcing them to do this. It's just things that you need to do to change the story to fit the universe. That's going back to Moon Knight. It's the same thing, like, if it just,
it's a good example, right? It's a good example of massive changes. Miss Marvel is a massive change. It's a huge departure from the character.
Huge.
I would argue, and some would argue, it makes her not Miss Marvel anymore. That's neither here nor there. Moon Knight, a guy with 5 personalities at least in the comics, and they could add however many more they want. Doing 5 different people in a show like this right now wouldn't work.
Impossible.
You literally would. You have the same face 5 times or 3 times. 2 of them are masked. You don't know what's going on because they've literally just thrown you into it. Like,
I've had people complain about the suit.
If people complain about the suit, they are actually dumb. I'm sorry.
Well, and then also the character being portrayed as mystical. It's like, look, if you read the comics, a lot of this stuff happened. Like, the character has been around for decades. So things like this have been in the comics. It just hasn't been prevalent, maybe in the.
It's also like, where do you think he gets the suit from?
Yeah,
is it not Khonshu, a god, a mystical being of ancient Egypt? It's always been mystical. It's just
Well, he's been subtly, like, every once in a while, some writers write him as not, but for the most part, the mystical part has always been a part of the character. It just hasn't been a lot of the time prevalent in the comics.
No, as you spoke about last week, literally introducing a supernatural. Literally a werewolf hunter. Like, come on, I don't understand.
But when it comes to people complaining, and like, I understand that you have a stake in the game when it comes to stuff like this, but it's like, I think a lot of people just need to sit back, watch it to the conclusion, and then judge it from that. Don't just nitpick at everything that happens every episode. It's like, that it just doesn't become fun anymore. Like, why are you watching it at this point? You're just watching it to find what's wrong with it. It's like, at this point, you might want to figure something else out, because
there's 2 types of people that always want to complain.
There's a lot of change. every character that's coming to the MCU has a minor change or a major change to the character in the live action. So get ready. This might not be the only one you see. So like the Secret Invasion show that's coming out. It's not a 1-for-1 for the Secret Invasion in the comics. So
No, I think a lot of people have realized that one.
Yeah.
Just like, how did you do Secret Invasion?
I feel like if you love the comic so much, I think you might want to go back and read the comic, because the shows are going to be a little bit different, and like they're using the name at sometimes. Look, Age of Ultron was name it alone, like the only thing that had to do with it, with that character, with that title, was Ultron. But like,
I mean, the best example, the first Avengers.
Yeah.
Literally nothing like the comic. Wasn't even the original team.
Yep. There's two missing teams.
People adored that movie.
Yeah, I think super fans sometimes don't. They find it. They find the changes being kind of like a slight against them in some way. I don't know. Like that's what I get from like talking to certain people is like they feel like it's a slight against their their fandom, and it's like no, like you can. There's two different things. You can enjoy both of them. You can enjoy the show or not the comic, whatever. But it's like I think there's there's two different fans. There's ones that are couch back. What is it? What is that word?
Couch quarterbacks.
Yeah, where they feel like they have the answer to everything, and there's the other one that just doesn't like what they're doing. And it's like,
which is fair enough. No, not everyone's gonna like everything. No, you don't have to like every change.
I don't want to be the person that tells you to like stop doing that, because that's your personal opinion. That's fine. But I think you need to maybe realize that like none of this stuff is going to be 1-for-1 for the comics. You just got to get that through your head. Through your head, it's like nothing is going to be.
The Lord of the Rings trilogy isn't 1-for-1 the books,
and
they changed a ton of stuff in that. Fantastic.
And there's two reasonings. It's logistical. It just can't happen. Can't do stuff. Or there's just like, what fun is it to just translate a comic to live action for a person that is creating this? Like a writer doesn't want to just transcribe a comic, to.
Yeah, exactly. You want to put your own stamp on it.
And like the company, and then you also have the bigger picture. Is like, so like the universe of the MCU is completely different from the comics. So like, what they want to fit they want to use the characters to fit the needs of the universe too. So whatever's happening, I don't know if that makes sense, but like it's
it makes sense, and it's kind of. I think people have got to start looking at it more like the Ultimate Universe. Totally its own thing, completely separate.
Yeah.
Yes, that eventually crossed over because it couldn't in the books, but totally separate. Did its own thing.
I think I had this conversation the other day with that person, and he's like a super fan for Captain America, and he read in an interview saying one of the writers said that Moon Knight could kick Captain America's butt, right, in MCU. Yeah. And he got super offended, like to
that's
the point
where
he just like came at me and asked me, he's like, "Is this true? This is ridiculous. Why would they say that?" It's like, it's like these are fictional characters, and they fit whatever the writer's needs are. So if Moon Knight sometimes can kick Captain America's butt, yeah, sure, okay, if it fits the narrative, But plus, I mean, if you look at the two styles, it's two different. I mean, Captain America holds back. Moon Knight does not. He is he is a brawler, right? He doesn't have, so there might be a reason where Moon Knight could kicks. It's stuff like that it just doesn't make it fun to talk about, because it's like it's like anything I would say to this guy, it would be like, oh, you're wrong. Captain America would. It's like, come on, man. Like This is just
the
fictional characters.
most least interesting thing about all of comics and superheroes is who would win against who. It's so
so boring. Because it's like it's different for each time, each writer. Each writer has a different well, like Mike Tyson has been beaten fights too, but it's just maddening to have these conversations. Like I'm having a 5-minute conversation with a guy that has already made his mind up, and no matter what I say, he's not going to budge. And it's like, come on, man. Why don't we just call a spade, and but like, I don't.
Also, for a character like Moon Knight, who has been reinvented constantly, it's only in the last, when was Marvel now? 10 years? Has he actually been consistent? There's been a consistent Moon Knight throughout. The rest of the time, they've had no idea what to do with him. He's been different constantly, and that's why he has this dissociative identity disorder. The timeline worked out because he's actually a unique character at this point. But it's.
I mean, if you look at the character done in the West Coast Avengers in the '80s, and you look at the character now, two totally different characters.
Yeah.
Two totally different characters, and you're right. I think the character has been more consistent in the last couple of years than he's ever been. And he's been more interesting than he's ever been. To me, he's a more interesting character than most comic book characters just in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Like if he stuck with the whole werewolf bit, he would be in the same spot Blade is right now. Yes, people love Blade, and I'm not knocking Blade in the side. It's a fantastic character. Where's Blade been in the last 20 years?
He's an Avenger now, but he's like
now. Now, because guess who's getting the movie? But before
he's
that,
all over the place.
Totally irrelevant. Couldn't even get his own the daughter of a Blade book off the ground.
Yeah.
People still ask about that. Where's that thing gone? It's cropped up again recently, but
yeah.
No, yes, Moon Knight's had several runs recently, but he's had several runs because Moon Knight's interesting at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. He's been more interesting in the last couple of years than he's ever been in his entire, creation. Ever since he's the DID has been a prevalent part of his character. That's what's made him the most interesting, and then he's that's what distinguishes him from when people use the whole conversation he's a Batman from Marvel. It's like no.
It's like no, they are Batman from Marvel. There's 5 of them.
The one thing is Batman doesn't realize he's a crazy guy. Moon Knight knows he's a crazy. I don't want to use the word crazy.
I say, speaking of, that's a very good, because this show, the way it's handling the whole DID stuff, and Arthur Harrow in the court scene. I'm gonna call it the court, whatever it was.
Yep.
The council meeting, I should say. He's like, this guy is insane, and he's like, no, he's like, he's not. He just needs help. He's just sick.
Yeah. He's not right.
Let's not use this guy's insane, this guy's crazy. It's like, no, Mark Spector's not insane. Steve Grant's not insane. Jake Lockley might very well be insane at this point. We don't know. I fingers crossed he is. I really want it to happen. Yeah. But he just needs some help. Well,
that's the best scene in the episode, because it's like he uses the thing that is like Khonshu used me. And now he's using this guy. Yeah. And he uses people and then he throws them away, basically. That's his argument. And if you look at Mark Spector, it feels like that's the case, where he's using this poor guy. And he's exploiting him, and he's exploited me. So we need to put him in and take him away, take him off the board, basically. And
which is very rich coming from Harrow, because he absolutely used he obviously used what's happened. We haven't seen it yet. I think I've got a faint idea what's gone on, because the implications of it. But when he shows up to the black market thing with the sarcophagus, and he's like, you have more in common than you think, and she's like, what? I was like, oh, something's gone down here. Because I'm certain Layla's a stand-in for a different I can't think what the character's name is in the comics, but she's like the daughter of the archaeologist that was with Steve, Mark Spector.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something's gone. No. Whether Bushman's in it or Bushman, how you pronounce it, I don't know. I mean, they're gonna go with that, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, he's not. If he is in the show, he's not really
He's not really a key player. Like maybe like an Easter egg, like if you could flash back to that scene, which I assume we're gonna get a look at that eventually. That was kind of a big thing to bring up and then just drop. But
yeah, I want to see. And this speaking as a fan, I want to see what Arthur's version of Moon Knight looked like when he was.
Yeah. Like what his suit looked like and all that.
Yeah, or what his like. What he was like, like because it has been retconned that he was the Avatar. He was a former Avatar of Khonshu. Yeah,
I mean, in fairness, Arthur Harrow didn't do jack in the comics anyway. He had like.
I mean, that's the beauty of it. Is like you take a character like that and you can do anything with it. He's a blank slate.
Because notice it's always funny when you can tell people don't know who Arthur Harrow is because they never complain about it. They'll complain about something else. And it's like Arthur Harrow's right there. Literally right there.
That character has been drastically changed from the comic version. And like the thing is like that character was only a one and done type of character in the comic. So it's like,
he'll no doubt show up in the next Moon Knight run now.
I'm sure. His character is going to show up, but like that's the beauty of having characters like that is like he's almost like a blank slate. I mean, even Bushman to Stained Glass Scarlet and Bushman, all his really rogues gallery are kind of blank slates. They can do almost anything with these things, these characters.
Wasn't Stained Glass Scarlet supposed to be in this?
Yeah. It was supposed to be, but
is she been cut or is that a Well, I thought, me and Armin were talking about this. I was under the impression that Layla was the Stained Glass Scarlet, and that's her art. But then I can't remember if that was something I read or if that was just me being an idiot. Nice stuff. Because Stained Glass Scarlet was thrown around a lot when the casting was coming out of this show.
She's a pretty prevalent. She had a pretty prevalent arc in his comic in the 80s. So. And like she returned, she's almost like Joker type. Not as in he's just insane or anything like that, but she's a very rogues. Like she's one of the like well-known rogues gallery of Moon Knight. Because Moon Knight doesn't have a lot. Like let's just face it.
No.
He's not the bat. Like again, he's not. When people use the comparison of Batman, it's like Batman has a lot of rogues. This guy has, I mean, the only known person he's fight that's his own is basically Werewolf by Night, and that was just like a one and done type of deal. And then
I'd argue the most prevalent Moon Knight villain is Khonshu.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing about it, when the recent runs is like it's made Khonshu kind of like almost an antagonist of Mark.
Yeah.
He's
and it makes it so much more interesting.
Yeah. Plus, you don't know if this guy's really talking to the Moon God, or if he is, that's. I mean, but like that's the beauty of the characters. Like he's, like sometimes you can't trust what you see, and like, but.
Because I've seen the spots that Marvel keeps putting out. I've seen those specific scenes, and I'm just like,
I haven't seen those scenes. What was that?
Because they do something like they play it up as interesting here. Because Mark's unconscious at this point, and obviously Khonshu's trapped in the stone.
Yeah.
So it's a case of, is it all in his head? Is this the dream moment where you die, you wake up, sort of thing?
Well, I can just say this: I think there's an episode that takes place in a mental institution. So I mean,
I'm 90% sure that's the next episode.
Yeah.
90% sure.
Yeah, I mean,
because everything they've shown so far, right, has been from these episodes that they put out.
Yeah,
it tends to be how, whatever the screeners are, tends to be what the episodes or the footage you see in the trailers and stuff. So
yeah.
the only thing that maybe sticks out and is odd to me is the beam coming from the pyramid. Maybe that's the end of the show. It tends to be the end of superhero stuff with the beam going towards the sky.
Beam from the heavens.
But thankfully, it's purple, not blue this time. Though you could argue it's kind of one and the same.
At least it's changing the color, right?
There is that, yeah. It's like, is that the end of it, or is that not the end of it? Like, because this seemed to be like the end, like a third act. Yeah. But if they're going they're clearly going the whole asylum route with it. So it's not really the third act; it's more the end of like the second act low.
Second act, yeah. See, that's the best part of the show is like you don't know, like so when before this show came out, when you seen the sizzle reels, like it was just like a mix match of everything, almost from every. I can tell you that I think the last trailer we got, one of the trailers had a lot of different episodes mashed together in that trailer.
Yeah, it's just interesting that we never saw Mr. Knight in the trailers.
Well, I think they were trying to they're putting the personas pretty close to the vest when they were doing it. They didn't want to just outright.
It makes it even more interesting because that way the posters and stuff, even the credits, you always see Oscar Isaac in a 3.
Yeah.
It's never in the 2.
Yeah.
And I noticed that instantly, Marvel. You ain't slick.
No, I mean,
part of me wishes I knew nothing about Moon Knight through the show because I'm enjoying it as it is. I would have loved the hell out of it.
Yeah,
this is right up my alley.
But I mean, out of all the shows, I think this has probably been the best received.
Even, hands down,
even with all the complaints and the displeasures of the treatment of Moon Knight.
The only complaints I've seen personally are people going on about how the CGI is bad, and it's like it's not that bad.
It's not bad. It's just like
no. Yes, the jackal looks like the Scooby-Doo monster. I made that joke myself. I'll stick by it. It does look. I think that's an unfortunate. It's the shape of the thing. You can't get away from that.
Well, I think the problem is way before the even shows came out is like the minute they said the CGIs are going to be like the movies, that's when I feel like they kind of shot themselves in the foot.
I was talking about this as well, like the whole how they've gone about the shows. Like me and Naomi were talking about it. Like Falcon and Winter Soldier CGI, fantastic, stunning.
Yeah,
you can't tell the difference between like the movies and the TV shows at that point. Like
especially
it's obviously COVID. Yeah, especially like the whole flight through the canyon. Like, it's COVID's clearly hurt these shows. Like all of them.
Yeah,
you can tell. You can absolutely tell.
At the very least,
it's still going on.
Yeah.
Maybe the whole stuff is true when Moon Knight's been brought forward because of other stuff for other shows. Like, yeah, that is going to affect the CGI because you've got less time to do it.
Less time to
do it. Not less time to do it because it's not like the CGI isn't finished. Because trust me, if it wasn't finished, you'd fucking know. It would just be grey.
You would see the green.
Lots of greys.
A lot of
lines. What unfinished CGI looks like? Go watch the bootleg version of Wolverine Origins.
Oh yeah.
Know what unfinished CGI looks like.
That's. Yeah. Oh no, that's unfit. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, even, and I'm not trying to bash Justice League in any way, but like that, the CGI for
Ezra's face in the mask and the nightmare scene.
In Steppenwolf, the original Steppenwolf.
It was bad. Yeah. I say the Snyder version of Steppenwolf's bad. The reflections on I don't understand why you'd want a chrome bad guy if you can't afford the reflections.
Yeah.
Because he looked flat. He looked totally out of place in every inch of that movie. It was horrendous.
This is the case of I feel like that went from bad to worse in my opinion. because
I mean, it's slightly better because his face looked actually his face had texture at least, whereas the Joss one didn't. He just looked.
But I think both versions of it just felt kind of cartoony and like
it's the eyes.
And then like it didn't feel like it was adding all that, like the spikes and the silver made it any better. I think that's just the problem with having a character like that as your main bad guy. I mean, there's so many things that not to get into like a tangent about that, but there were so many villains that they could have used versus that character, or at least the aesthetic of the character should have been changed. I don't know, but again, back to Moon Knight.
Because the Khonshu CGI, he's literally just sitting there. He's sitting there in the daylight, just chilling. He looks fantastic. You actually see it, like if you can find the post or even watch it in 4K, it's not bad. He has textures. He looks fantastic. Like, yes, a compressed low-res image on Twitter is gonna make him look bad because guess what? The image is bad. Like,
I would
cap decent quality before you talk about bad CGI, please.
Well, I would say the Khonshu thing is probably the best CGI in the show.
Like is there some wonky stuff in this show? Yes, there's absolutely some wonky stuff. Like the CGI with the van chase in the first episode, slightly wonky. Like every time he falls off a cliff or something, slightly wonky. Like it's fun.
But I can tell you this though, in this again my opinion, they focus on the right stuff for CGI.
100%, yeah. No, I totally agree.
Because I think if they would have not nailed, they nailed Khonshu. In my mind, nailing Khonshu is like 100% better than having.
I totally agree. Yeah. What's the point in making that Jackal look fantastic when it's invisible 80% of the time?
Yeah. I mean, I think they took they focused on the stuff that they needed to be really good, and they, and like it's so minute. With the car chase scene, it's such a fly by the moment. Yeah. So it's like, it wasn't great, but it wasn't like
it's not horrendous. Again, like it's not offending me at all. At least me.
I would rather have that in like the best version of Khonshu than have a great car scene that lasts about all 5 seconds and have a mediocre CGI rendering of Khonshu, which is going to be, he's almost a character in the show because he's
absolutely
a lot in the show, and I know that they put a lot of budget towards that versus like they didn't allocate, they allocated more to creating the best possible version of Khonshu than allocating it to like 5 second scenes, that stuff, I really didn't care about, because 5 seconds of bad CGI, sure, but I have 15 minutes of great Khonshu, give me that, any day.
Fair enough. Khonshu's not wandering around all the time. He literally just, for lack of a better word, and totally pun intended, he just perches on stuff.
Yeah,
he's I'm going to perch on this car. I'm going to perch on this rock. I'm going to sit on this cliff.
He's a bird, so
he's an old man. He's seen a lot of shit.
I still love the C. Abraham. I can never remember his name. The voice of Khonshu. I still defend that.
Yes,
I love it.
Yeah. Though I'm still slightly weirded out that he talks like a modern day English guy.
But if you
modern day accent, I should say.
Google a picture of him, and you can tell that if Khonshu was a real person, that's what that would look like.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. But it's one of those where it's Khonshu's obviously going to know the language of the guy he's like got as his avatar and how he talks, so it's whatever. It's totally fine with me. But I
Abraham is what it is.
That's the one. Yeah. I've seen one person say, I couldn't tell you where it was. I can't remember if I know the person or not. But someone say, I can't hear Khonshu without thinking of Optimus Prime. And it's like, you know what? It's very Optimus Prime-y. No.
Yeah. But like I love the design, what they did with it.
Oh, he looks
and, like,
fantastic. I adore it.
that was the one thing I remember like we were talking about developing the show and then using a lot of that of the comic of that version of the comic in the show. I was like, man, that's gonna be. I mean, that's a hit or miss thing because, like, again, if you don't get the Khonshu look right, then the show just goes downhill. You know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Though
but
now that we got this, part of me really wishes wishes that we had it, but part of me hopes that we get it. Is Khonshu's look changes with which Moon Knight we currently have? Because in one of the recent runs, he has his own suit on, like the little like Mr. Knight version. And it's like, please, I need this giant Birdman.
and we've never seen him. Have we seen him through Steven's eyes or?
Yeah, literally this episode.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like they did the whole Star thing. He's got the.
I guess
the same.
I guess the first episode too, when he was in the hallway. I guess that he's seen, but
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I've got no problem with it. It's one of those things where I can live with it or live without it. It doesn't. It's not. It's only like a little fan. Like, please, just for the meme, just do it, please. No, but
yeah,
it's totally fine. I adore this show as it's going. No, yes, I said that this episode isn't as good as the other two, but that's not a knock against it in the slightest, to be honest.
You know what? I remember in the meetings. Production meetings, I suggested using the Cult of Khonshu in some way too.
Cult of Khonshu.
Yeah, it was just it was in the like recent runs of it was just like a bunch. It was almost like what Arthur Harrow has.
Yeah.
But I remember they were talking, and like it probably would have been more of a redundant thing to have two cults in one show, but I thought that might have been interesting to see like people running around with the Khonshu mask on.
It would have been an interesting visual. And, that's something that you can do later down the line as well. There's nothing actually happening.
Because Khonshu is, I mean, if you're a fan of the comics, you know Khonshu is not a good guy. He's he's not a good dude. So it would not be surprised to see something like that down the line. So
yeah, he's a very ambiguous character.
Khonshu's
out for Khonshu.
I was gonna say, like, Arthur in that scene when he said he uses people, he was actually telling the truth in some way. Like,
he's playing on what the court knows. He's like, look, you know what this guy's like. He's not. He's a bit. He's self-preserving sort of thing.
Yeah, he's a baby. He's a 5-year-old throwing a temper tantrum, and I mean, if you look at like how gods are portrayed, anyways, that's usually how they're portrayed. But like this,
gods are very for beings that have existed for millennia, they're very
gimme, you took my thing, type of mentality, and like Khonshu,
I'm entitled to this thing because I am me.
And like there's hints of that in the show where he like when he was trying to like. He's basically blackmailing Mark, like, oh,
and his like, I didn't abandon, I was exiled for not abandoning humanity. You left everyone to, it's not my fault.
That and like he, basically was saying like, hey, if you're not gonna do it, I know someone that I can use. Like, and he would look at Layla and like she would be a perfect avatar for me, and like. He's a very gray, walk the line type of guy or entity, I should say.
He's a bit of a dick.
Yeah, that's short. Yes,
short and sweet. He's a bit of a dick.
He's a twat, as the English would say.
No, the English would say twat.
Oh, twat. Twat.
The only people that ever say twat are the Americans.
Because we can't pronounce it that way.
Yeah, it's always a twat.
Yeah.
Twat. Because you can really emphasize, like, you twat.
You're a twat.
Really put some venom.
I'm never going to use that in an argument with my wife, though. It's a good way to get a divorce and get kicked out of the house.
Yeah, it's just always go for the at and twat.
So where do you think this next episode goes?
I'm actually upset Stephen hasn't used twat yet. He's used twit, which in fairness is very much a Stephen version of twat. But
yeah, he's a very cartoony. Like Stephen seems to be portrayed as a cartoon, like over the top. Like,
well, it's that like slight panicky out of your depth.
Yeah,
like he knows he has this arsenal now, and he's willing to use it, but it's I'm not going to use it in the way you want me to. I'm going to use it in a very Stephen Grant sort of way. and people are like thinking he's Deadpool. It's like, do you know what Deadpool's like?
Oh man!
Like the only similarity between Mr. Knight and Stephen Grant currently to Deadpool is the eyes. That's it. There's no other similarities between him and Deadpool right now. Nothing.
Yeah. Again, it's the I don't want to say misappropriation, but it's like it like it seems like a similar character, but he's totally different, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But people just don't get Moon Knight. People think he's Batman. Now I think he's Deadpool. Like what? No, it's Moon Knight.
I 100% roll my eyes every time I hear that in the conversation.
I cringe to death a little inside every time. It's just like,
it's like, oh boy. We can tell when comic book fans and non-comic book fans talk about comic book characters. It's like the minute you hear stuff like that, it's like, oh no, stop saying that.
It's like, have they changed Mr. Knight a little bit? Sure.
Yeah,
sure. But this is the start of Mr. Knight. It's not the Mr. Knight you know in the comics who literally just appears out of nowhere and is the tits at everything. No, it's
gonna get there. You just gotta,
like it's an origin story, right? It's a Mr. Knight origin story. Like you have to build up to certain things, and I know people for some reason at the minute people have got tired of build up and character development. And it's like, if there was no character development, you'd hate it. You need the development for people. You can't just start off at the end. You got to work your way up there. But that's not there. But,
it's called being impatient. So
yeah. You would have thought after waiting 12 years for Endgame, people would learn patience, but clearly not.
Nope.
It's I got nothing wrong with these changes whatsoever. I think they work for the universe, for the character. In fact, I will go out on a limb and say I think I prefer this version of Moon Knight over most in the comics. The fact that it's leaning more into the supernatural Egyptian stuff, it's like, do more of that. That's what Moon Knight should be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a build up to. They're taking a character that already has supernatural ties and just kind of amplifying it just a little bit.
Yeah,
that's all they're doing. And like, it's the same character in the comics for the most part. I don't know. Guys, get ready. Blade's not going to be Blade from the comics. It's just. I mean, he's not going to be walking around in a turtleneck or anything like that. But like
all right, then I'm out. He needs the turtle. I need the old Blade costume. Like enough of the leather. We ain't in the 90s anymore.
Look, I am not I haven't lack of trying. So but like, I would love
turtleneck and the glasses. I need the visor glasses
and that goatee.
I need the orange visor glasses, please.
Yeah,
the bright green turtleneck and the brown of the jacket. Like, that is a look.
But I'll give you guys a tidbit. I did see kind of early designs for him.
Nice.
Gonna be good, man. Nice. Mahershala Ali looks great. Best choice ever, man. Yeah.
I can't wait to see these two next to each other.
Oh yeah, and I mean,
sorry, these four.
Oh, and then you got Ghost Rider. Come on, like this is gonna be
whenever he shows up. Right?
I mean, when Norman Reedus is available.
Oh, please no. Anyone
that
but.
seems to be a contentions part.
Anyone
very
but.
devices.
That's like there's Norman Reedus for Ghost Rider, and then there's Louis Tan for any Asian character ever. Like, please, just knock me out.
Yeah. They tend to focus on one guy for 6 different characters. So like I honestly, my opinion, I would love to see Diego Luna to have a second chance at the
Yeah, I'd be down for that. I'd be down for that.
You know, like I look, I
do Robbie properly.
I like the Johnny Blaze character, and you can use the Johnny Blaze character in the movie or TV show, whatever. But I think that the Robbie Reyes one is more of a striking image. You know, like I mean, it's a flaming car. You know, and like you can easily tie. I mean, they did it in the show pretty good to tying both the characters together. You can do it again. I mean, I would love to see him get a second chance at it, but I don't know. You know.
So I'm not holding my breath, but I'd be down for it.
You never know. Yeah. It is Hollywood.
I don't think like there's one more just before we end this because it has been 55 odd minutes. I hope we see more of Oscar Isaac's face acting. Yeah, because that transition between Mark and Steven was fantastic. It's like that's why you get Oscar Isaac.
Oh yeah, like you know he's such 100%. A great actor, man. Yeah, he's such a great actor.
Shame he doesn't do his own stunts because there's a very noticeable transition with the stunt guys.
When the mask comes back over, and
then it's when he's chasing the guys before the Jake Lockley tease. And like he jumps behind the hood of a van or like a little lorry, and it takes like 3 seconds for him to get up and run. It's like that's a stunt transition right there.
That's a stunt trying to hide the face as much as possible. I wouldn't
mind, but it's like I obviously not going to get up straight away, but it's you can't even see the guy. Like see the guy. It's almost like the stunt guy fell over and he's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Crap, we're rolling." Like I had to run out. But that's neither here nor there. That's just something I picked up on. Like, but he's the way he acted with that transition. I only want to see that from now on. I don't want the flashes unless it's Jake before we introduce him properly. That's how I.
But yeah, I have a feeling you might be getting more Jake next episode. So.
I'm still convinced, and with this episode, I'm even more convinced that I've got this show sussed out. We have one more for Mark, or have a focus on Mark. Maybe Jake shows up at the end. Maybe Jake shows up in the 5th episode. But the last 2 are more of a focus on Jake. That's.
He's the mystery
I'm probably off with it entirely, but this episode to me was like, yeah, no, I'm on the right track here. If not on the button, but
yeah,
we'll find out in a couple of weeks, and no doubt Sean will laugh at me again. That's how these tend to go.
How dare you?
That's how these tend to go now. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll catch you next week for episode 4. And yeah, have a good week. Everyone had a good weekend because you'll hear this on Tuesday morning. Yep. So yeah, good weekend, good Easter, good whatever. It's your English bank holiday, 4-day weekend. So yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.